Looks like we're live.
Hey everybody, we're just doing our last minute checking to make sure that all the sound in the video is okay. So just bear with us just for a few seconds longer. Glad to see everybody on the line. I hope you're as excited as I am. I got lots of things to share tonight. And I appreciate your taking time out on Friday evening. You know, everybody's got plans, it seems like, but then I hear from people, hey, Friday night's the best night because we don't have anything going on. So we thought we'd try it for tonight. And we can also then do a recording. So if for those of the people who are missing it, hopefully we will have a replay available tomorrow. So,
hey, Donna, sounds good.
Okay.
We're ready to go.
So are we? It is 7 o'clock. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Well, like I said, I'm really glad to have you on board tonight. You know, I realize that a lot of times when you get started in something, you're all gung-ho, and then life happens, and you think, you know, I got to take care of this, or I got to take care of that, and the next thing you know, you push back the most important thing, and you haven't gotten involved in it, and you haven't really got it off the ground. And so I thought that tonight would be a great time for a refresher, because some people, they don't remember why they even decided they were going to do notes. You know, or they, like, for example, you might need some quick cash right now. And did you remember that you can flip a note and make $10,000 in the next 30 days? You know, or maybe you have downsized or something, or you lost your job and you're looking for some monthly income. You're thinking, I know Donna told me we could do that, but how? And so I thought I would just go over some of the basics. I am not going to go into detail on everything, okay? This is a refresher just to remind you of some of the things that you can do. But then hopefully that will stir up your interest, and then you can go back to your materials and get all the details. So the first thing that I want to do, and Matthew, I have to tell you that my little mouse is not working. Let's see if we can. It was working when we tested it.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, it's on something else. 1 sec.
Okay. And for those of you who have not met Matthew, he is new with me this year, actually the end of last year. And I don't know what I would do without him. Matthew, I don't know how I got along all these years without you. I mean, he is great. Many of you have already talked to him on the phone, or you've sent emails, and he is here to help you. And so whether it's to make sure that you have access to all of your online materials or what it might be, he's right there on the spot and happy to get you started. Okay.
I'm showing everybody a little bit.
That's all right. That was me. Okay, thanks, Matthew. Thank you. So for starters, let's talk about what are the best opportunities for today's market. And the big debate is usually between non-performing and performing notes. And I don't know if you all had the occasion. Wednesday night, just 2 days ago, I was on Vena Jones Cox's Real Life Real Estate Investing radio show. And everybody's saying that was the best ever radio show. And I think she's been doing that for 10 or 15 years. Scott Carson, who is famous for his non-performing notes, he and I went at it, so to speak, in the ring. And he was defending non-performing notes, and I was defending the performing notes. And don't tell him, but I cleaned his clock. So it was really exciting, and we've got a link for it. And so Matthew's going to be sending that out soon. So be watching your emails, because I know you'll enjoy that. But in general, here's the deal. So I don't know if you've known me a long time, you'll remember back in the early 2000s, actually after 9/11, the market started going down even then. And so there were lots of short sales, and I wrote the ultimate note buying, the ultimate short sale. And I was teaching people to call the bank and start like you're doing a short sale, and instead get them to sell you the note. Okay. And so at that time, I had a big office. I had 7 people working for me, and we'd have a pipeline of like over 50 deals, mostly non-performing. I mean, that was where the big focus was. And we were rocking and rolling. And that was a great time to do the defaulted notes. And certainly after the downturn in 2008, that was a phenomenal time to be doing the non-performing notes. And even today, it can be. It depends on what your goal is. The thing is that, first of all, the non-performing notes take a lot more time. So if you're dealing with just one note at a time, and you have to call, set up all these different vendors and everything just to do one note, it's like it's just not worth it. And there's so much risk involved. The risk is the big reason why I don't recommend that most people start with the non-performing. And the issue is that there are so many exit strategies that it's really a matter of what's going to happen, because you don't know. You might plan on taking over, doing a workout with the homeowner, and you buy the note, and then you go to check on the property, and they're long gone. So where's the workout going to be? It's not going to happen. You might have to then track them down, hope you can get a deed in lieu, and if not, you're going to wind up foreclosing. And so the thing is that you don't know what's going to happen. And more importantly, you never want to start with non-performing notes unless you have cash to back yourself up. Okay, if you don't have cash, there's all kinds of things that can happen. And once you get that deed, it's your responsibility. If there are building orders, if there are delinquent taxes, negative cash flows, insurance, all those things, you better be prepared to cough up the bucks to take care of it. And so the thing is that if you're wanting to build a large company, maybe you're wanting to start a fund that invests in the NPNs, as they're called, then that's a great opportunity. And there is no doubt in my mind that you can make great money on the non-performing notes. However, I would bet 9 out of 10 of my students don't want to do that. They don't want the hassles of dealing with the non-performing notes. And so I will tell you, there is a time and a place for everything. Yes, I used to love to do the non-performing notes when I had a huge staff of people. But nowadays, hey, I've got 6 grandkids. I don't want to spend all day, every day, taking care of employees and having to be at the office. I love having downsized and working from home just as a one-person shop. I love it. And you know what? I make more money, okay? So the thing is, you have to decide, what are your personal goals? And if you want to build a great big business, then absolutely, I would consider the non-performing note market. But if you're just doing a few notes here and there, the only time that I would buy right now, the only non-performing notes that I'm buying are ones right in the neighborhood where I'm trying to build up rental properties. Makes sense? Because shoot, let's face it, the non-performing notes are the best way to acquire properties at really steep discounts. You buy the non-performing note at a huge discount, and you use that as leverage to get the deed. And sometimes you can negotiate and get a deed in lieu, and then other times you might wind up having to actually finish the foreclosure. But either way, you're going to wind up getting that property at a much, much greater discount than you can buy houses on the open market. And so that's when I'm buying the non-performing notes right now, when I have my eye on building my real estate, my property portfolio. But other than that, why would I want to spend all the time and the money and take the risk for a non-performing note when it is so much easier to do the seller carrybacks? With the seller carrybacks, you still get very nice profits. In fact, you can get phenomenal rates of return. You can get tremendous profits. Many of you remember the story of my student Phil. And this goes to show The larger the mortgage, the larger the profit. Do you remember that? And so he wound up buying a $2 million commercial note. Now, he didn't have $2 million, but do you also remember how I taught you to buy with none of your own money? He did a simultaneous close. And he bought that, and at the same time, he flipped it to somebody else, and he made over $396,000, almost $400,000. And it wasn't with any hassle at all. He just simply bought a seller carryback, flipped it to somebody else on a double close, and he made almost $400,000. I bet you he didn't have 20 hours of work in that. I mean, is that a good deal? And no risk, because he didn't buy it until he already had the resale lined up. And so why get tied up with all the bad paper when you can make those kind of profits with the seller finance notes? And you say, okay, well, how about your actual rate of return? Well, I'm going to show you. I want to go through some examples. But overall, with the performing notes, when you're comparing that to the non-performing notes, you're still going to get great profits, and they take very little time. Most of them, it's probably 15 to 20 hours total. And you can normally close a performing note, a seller carryback, if you're flipping it, usually it's less than 30 days. And if you follow my program, it is risk-free, because like I said, the only money you're going to have in it might be $300 or so for an appraisal. And so you're going to always line up your end buyer before you ever actually buy the note. And that's why it's risk-free, other than what you might spend on an appraisal. Makes sense? Okay, so without further ado, let's take a look at some examples. Now, I'm not going to go through this in great detail because I know many of you have heard it multiple times. You can find the complete explanation of my Sam and Bill in the Learning Center of the website. And again, our website is thenotebuyer.com. And if you haven't been there recently, you need to go. Matthew has done a phenomenal job of really getting a state-of-the-art website up for us. And we got lots more coming. We're doing a members area and all kinds of very cool stuff. So if you haven't been there, check it out. It's thenotebuyer.com. And you can watch this entire Sam and Bill presentation. But I just want to do, like I said, a quick refresher right now. And just to refresh, the note is the promise to pay. It has all the terms, how much you're lending, what's the interest rate, what's the monthly payment. It is the mortgage or the deed of trust that provides security. So if the borrower doesn't pay, the lender will use that mortgage or deed of trust, foreclose and take the property. And then when they get the property, they can turn around and sell it and recoup their money. So even though you might hear people say, I buy notes, other people say, I buy mortgages, know that they work hand in hand. And if you're smart, you're not going to buy one without the other. Okay. So if you will recall my basic Sam and Bill example, we had Sam seller who had his own house worth $600,000, and it happened to be free and clear. It doesn't have to be, but in this case it was. And he decided to sell it. And his friend said, hey, listen, you need to offer seller financing. It's a lot quicker. So he actually put it on Craigslist, and he got a call from Bill Bauer. And so Bill rushed over, looked at the house, and Bill tells Sam, look, I've got $150,000 because I just sold my own house. He said, I'll pay you 10% interest. I'll pay $4,000 a month. And in 10 years, I'll refinance and pay you off. Well, think about it. Was that a good deal for Sam? That was an awesome deal for him. Shoot, he's selling it really fast. I mean, he's got an installment sale, so he's got some tax benefits. So he's thrilled, okay? And he's getting 10% interest on his money. So they work out a deal, and Sam sells the $600,000 house to Bill Bauer. And in exchange, Bill gives Sam $150,000 in cash plus a mortgage for the remaining $450,000. So now let's say that 2 years go by and the mortgage is paid down to just over $443,000. Well, what happens if Sam gets tired of waiting for the money? He needs his money. Let's say that he needs $375,000. Maybe it's to start a business. Maybe it's because he got married and she wants a new house, or maybe it's because he got a divorce and he needs the money, or he's got a medical problem, or he wants to travel, or he wants to go to school. Whatever it is, let's say that he needs cash and he needs it right away. So you have sent him a letter, okay, that probably says, if you're Donna Dealer, you say, Dear Sam, I understand that you're receiving payments on a mortgage, and I pay cash for mortgages. Give me a call and I'll tell you how much cash I'll give you, okay? Or you might have used my postcard strategy, which, remember, that's a completely different strategy. Don't go putting everything on a letter and stick it on a little tiny postcard. The postcard strategy, if you will remember, the purpose of that postcard is to get Sam to call you. Remember? So you buy your list, and you should have gotten some names of some list providers when you got my materials. Remember to tell them that you're my student. They'll give you a good price on them. And so you take your list, and you could do either the letter, which should look very professional, or you could do just a simple postcard. Make it look like it's handwritten, even if it's not. Use a handwritten font. And you simply say, Dear Sam, please call me about the mortgage that you're holding on 51 Andover Road, or whatever it is. And just sign your name and your cell phone. You don't tell him why you're sending the postcard. Remember that? And so when he calls up, now you've got him on the phone, and you're going to get a much bigger response from the postcard, because they wondered, why am I getting this postcard? Did the house burn down? Did the people move out? What's going on? And so this is your opportunity to build a rapport with Sam Seller, okay? And so you get him on the phone and you explain that you pay cash for mortgages. And hey, is he looking for some cash? And if so, then you can strike a deal with him. And if he says, hey, I'm not interested in that, you say, hey, take my postcard and stick it in your mortgage file. And if you ever need money fast, don't worry about going and getting a loan. Call me up. I'll buy your note from you. Okay. And I got to tell you, just this week, a gal from Cincinnati who has my materials, she actually called me with a deal that was from like 6 or 7 years ago. And she had told him just that. Put the letter, she was using a letter, but it said P.S., if you don't need money right away, stick this with your mortgage, mortgage file. And if you ever need money, call me. And that's what the guy did. Okay. So at any rate, you have sent these letters. One way or another, you hook up with Sam Seller and you strike a deal with Sam. And he agrees that he will sell you this note for $375,000. Now, this is the very essence of how you can make money flipping a seller carryback note. So this is very important. This slide, if you're trying to multitask, like I know a lot of people do, this is the time to look at the screen and pay attention, because you don't want to miss this, okay? The secret to making money by flipping a note, you want to get this under contract, and then all you need to do is find an investor who wants a lower rate of return than what you're buying it for. So if you're buying this for $375,000, that happens to work out that you're making 13.25% on your money. So in other words, if you had your own cash and you bought Sam's note and you paid $375,000 of your own money, you could sit back, collect the last 8 years of payments, do nothing else with it, and you'd be making 13.25% on your money. But what if you don't have any money? Whether it's already all invested in something, or whether you're just starting out and you have no cash at all. then what you want to do is you get it under contract. And then you put together a nice summary. I teach you how to do that in the master guide. And after you get that summary put together, you present that to some investors, and you find an investor who would be happy with a return of less than 13 and a quarter. And here's the deal. The lower the rate of return that they want, the more profit you're going to make, because the more they are going to pay for that note. Okay? Did you get that? Okay? The lower the rate of return that they're looking for, the more profit you will make. So let's say you find an investor who is anxious to get away from all the rental properties. She's had it with the tenants, the trash, and the toilets. And she says, gosh, if I could make an 11.5% yield on notes, I would switch to notes in a heartbeat. Well, if she wants an 11.5% return, that means she would pay $410,000. Do you think we should sell it to her? Well, if you want to make $35,000, you want to sell it to her. And so do you see, it's so simple. It's buy low, sell high, and whatever the spread is, that's your profit. And this transaction typically takes about 15 to 20 hours to put together. Basically, once you get it under contract, you go through my checklist, and you're going to order title. Now, they might already have a lender's title policy, in which case you still order an update, but at least you don't have to have the expense of ordering a brand new policy, okay? So you're going to get the title. You're going to order an appraisal. It's a simple drive-by appraisal. You'll get the credit report. And, hey, you don't even have to worry about belonging to the credit bureau. When I had an office, I did, but I can't be a part of a credit bureau when I'm working from home. All you do is simply ask the borrower. When you call them up, you say, look, I forgot to pull your credit. And if I pull it, it's going to ding your credit score by 4 points. Why don't you just go on creditkarma.com and make sure you get a credit report that has your credit scores and just send that over to me. And that way it doesn't hurt your credit score. And they'll send you the credit report. It's that easy. So you'll do that, and you're going to contact their insurance company and make sure that your investor gets added onto the insurance, and you arrange the closing with the title company, okay? And so your closing, we're going to do the double close, and that is where you're going to buy it from Sam, and you're going to turn around and sell it to Irene Investor. And so it's a very simple transaction. And I want to remind you that if you don't like numbers, if you're not a numbers person, no worries. If you remember the story about my brother, he hates numbers. But man, he's a people person. And he sure knows how to talk to Sam Seller and say, hey, what do you want for your note? And Sam tells him $375,000. And he says, here, sign on the dotted line. And what he does is he gets it under contract to buy. Now, mind you, there's a very nice weasel clause in there that says if you don't find a buyer, that you can walk away from it. That's why it's risk-free. You're not under any obligation unless you find the investor, okay? And so you get it under contract with him. And then if you don't know how to use the calculator, my gosh, send the deal to me. Say, Donna, what will you give me for this note? And I'll calculate it. Or send it to one of the institutions or a private buyer that buys all the time and say, hey, I got this great note. What will you give me for it? And they'll say, hey, we'll give you $410,000. And you've never picked up your calculator. Do you know what your rate of return is? The truth is, you don't need a calculator to calculate your rate of return. What is it? It's infinite because you have no money invested. Okay? So if you ask my brother on this deal, hey, what's your rate of return? You know what he'd say? Enough. What does he care? He's just put $35,000 in the bank. So this is the very simple breakdown of how to flip a note. And let me tell you, it doesn't have to be a seller carryback. This is the same way. You can do the same thing with a non-performing note. Okay. So let's say that you have a great contact at a bank and they call you whenever they've got a non-performing note that they want to get rid of. Okay. So when that happens, you find out how much they want for it and you get them under contract to sell it to you. You turn around and you go to an investor, mark it up $10,000 or whatever you think you can get for it. And you just simply, it's like wholesaling it. You're going to flip that note to another investor. Let them deal with doing a workout or foreclosing or whatever it is they're going to do. Hey, your time is too valuable to be caught up in all the minutia. You need to learn to make the highest use of your time, and that is by flipping notes, okay? Or by working with the seller finance notes. It's not by dealing with properties and by dealing with the defaulted notes they suck up all your time and your money. Not to mention, like I said before, they're very, very risky, okay? Okay, so for some reason, we're not moving forward on that. Maybe you can help me. Step in there and move it to the next slide, please, Matthew. For some reason, my mouse isn't working again.
There you go.
Okay. Can I get control of that again? There we go. Okay. So again, I didn't need my own money because I was going to use Irene Investors' money. And that could be Irene, a private investor, or it might be an institutional buyer. Either one. Okay. And remember, I talked about the simultaneous close. And if you don't know what that is, it's when you close two transactions at the same time. So the first transaction would be buying the note from Sam, and your title company would get that all ready to close. And then knowing that when you turn around and sell that to Irene, you're going to pick up $410,000. What they do is they use your proceeds, that $410,000, they take the $375 out of it. I mean, if they've already got $410,000 in their escrow account, why do they need your money? Guess what? They don't. Okay. And so that's how you do this without your own cash. And I want to tell you something. You might say, hey, Donna, I heard that you can't do a simultaneous close if you're flipping a house. You know what? That's true. But are we flipping a house? No, we're flipping the financing. And guess what? You can do it if you're flipping the financing. So I hope a light went on that if you're new to investing and you don't have your own cash and you need to use other people's money, it's a whole lot easier to use other people's money when you're buying a note. So don't be caught up in this thing. Oh, after I do a couple of real estate deals, then I'm going to learn to do notes. You got it backwards. You should do the notes first. And then if you want the properties, start buying the properties. Does that make sense? Okay. For some reason, Matthew, it keeps getting hung up. I got it, I think. So the other way to do this without your own cash, and this is actually simpler, but it's not my preferred way. You'll see why. You can assign your contract. So in other words, Sam Seller, you entered into a contract with him. He agrees he's going to sell you this note for $375,000. Okay. You could go to Irene Investor, show her the note and say, hey, I'll sell you this contract for $35,000. She writes you a check for $35,000. And now she steps into your contract and she buys the note from Sam for $375,000. Okay. And so the net effect is the same thing, but what's the problem here? If she wrote you a check for $35,000, now she knows how much money you made. And you know what? It's human nature. You can have the happiest of investors until they find out how much money you made, and then they think that they left money on the table. So the only time I do an assignment of contract is if it's like with one of my long-time investors who they know that I'm making money. They know I'm not gouging them, and they're just happy that I'm getting them these nice, solid, safe, high-yielding notes. And so in that case, I do the assignment of contract just because it's easier and because it's cheaper, because I don't have to pay two sets of closing costs. But I would say probably 2 out of 3 of my deals are done with the simultaneous close and doing the double close. It's costs a little bit more, but it's worth it, and it keeps your profit private. Keeps your profit private. That can be a tongue twister. Say that 50 times fast. Okay, so you got that? I hope you're remembering this. I think a lot of times it comes back to you if you've already heard my presentation. So to sum this up, there are 2 ways that you can make money from doing the notes. If you have your own cash, you're going to be Irene or Ivan investor, and you're buying and holding the note. You use your own cash, and you do this because you want to get a nice, safe, high yield on your money. But if your money is already invested, or if you have no money, then you want to start like I did back many years ago when I was babysitting for $1 an hour. I started out as Donna Dealer, and I flipped the note. And if you remember 30 years ago, on my first deal, I made $5,372. That was 30 years ago. I don't know what that would be in today's money, but a lot more than 5,000. I mean, that was a life-changing deal for me, especially when you think about that I seriously was babysitting 5 little kids for $1 an hour plus my own 4. Okay. So when you flip the note, the idea is that you use other people's money, OPM. And your purpose is to make a lump sum of cash, just like we did on the Sam and Bill example. Buy low, sell high, and whatever the difference is, that's your profit. Now, here's something that's very important. A lot of people miss this. I think we can all agree that our goal is to have passive income. We all want mailbox money, beach money. You can be sitting on a beach and the money keeps coming in. You don't have to work for it. The most you have to do is walk out to the mailbox and get the check, okay? How are you going to get from Donna Dealer, where you're actively buying and selling notes, to Irene Investor? Well, if you're like Phil, it's going to be real easy. You close your first deal and you make $396,000. Shoot, you could turn around and buy a $600,000 note and sit back and live off the proceeds of that for a while. But the idea is that you make 50,000 here, 10,000 here, 20,000 there, 100,000 there, and it's not long before you have your own cash where you can participate as the investor. And that should be your ultimate goal, so that you have passive money coming in. Whether you work or not, the money keeps coming in. Okay, so I hope you see the 2 differences on that. Okay. All right, so I want to switch gears. So to sum up what we just covered, if you are looking for a lump sum of cash, whether you've got bills to pay, you've got college tuition that's coming up, whatever it might be, then the quickest way, the fastest, easiest, safest way to make money in real estate is to flip a note. And it can be either a seller finance note or it can be a non-performing note. It is simple, easy, and quick to flip a note. Okay. But I know some of you are interested in creating super high rates of return. And this is really crazy, but it's so easy to do. It's almost like people think it's too easy, like this is just too good to be true. It's so simple that it can't be true. And it's just a function of the time value of money. It can't help but happen, okay? And so let me tell you about that. You may remember this deal, and I'm hoping that you do. I purposely am using the same examples because I know for me, the more that I hear the same thing, each time I get a better understanding of it. Okay, so that's why I keep going over with the same examples. And this is a refresher, okay? So this was one of the deals that I did. Rick is my student, and he sent out his direct mail letters. He lives in Detroit. I live in Cincinnati, and Miss Annie lived in Texas. So he did his direct mail to Texas. And she responded to his letter, and she is the perfect note seller. If there is any target market that you want, it is someone like Miss Annie. What's so special about Miss Annie? Here's the deal. She was originally a landlord. And I don't know how many houses she had. A guess is probably 30 houses or something like that. A substantial amount of rental properties. So she rented out properties for years. That was her livelihood. And then as she got older, she said, hey, I've kind of had it with the tenants, the trash, and the toilets. And so what did she do? What all wise real estate investors should do. She sold the property to the renters, and she carried back a note. She did a seller finance note on all of her properties. So now she's got 30 or however many seller carryback notes. So for a number of years, she's been sitting back collecting payments. Now she doesn't even have to deal with the maintenance, no negative cash flows, no insurance, no taxes, none of that, because the owner of the property deals with that. She has truly become a passive investor. However, in Miss Annie's case, sadly, she was very ill, and she knew she didn't have much time left. And she was wanting to divest of all of her mortgages so that her heirs would not have to deal with them. And so she calls up Rick, and she tells him, I have this note for sale, and I'd like $80,000 for it. And if you can give me $80,000, we've got a deal. Well, we didn't want her to think that she left money on the table, so we offered her $80,475. She was thrilled. Would you believe that this works out to be a 25% rate of return? Are you getting 25% rates of return on your other investments? And this is just buy it and sit back and collect the monthly payments. You don't even have to do anything to it. This is a totally passive investment, and you're making 25%. And it is secured by real estate, okay? The truth is that if you find this type of paper, and I call it virgin paper, paper that has not been shopped all over the place. Miss Annie got a letter from Rick and called him. She didn't post it on a website. She didn't go around getting 3 or 4 quotes from everybody. She got his letter. She called him. He agreed to do it, and they struck a deal. Okay. So I would say probably 2 out of 3 of the deals that I do are Miss Annie's because they have a real need to cash out. So at any rate, we have this under contract. Now, if you'll recall, if I'm going to buy to hold, I like to buy in my own backyard. So, but I buy and sell all over the country. Okay. So what I did was I called up one of my Texas investors, one of my Texas students. Little did I know that in this huge state of Texas, he happens to live a half hour away from this property. I call that a God thing. Okay. And so we struck a deal, and actually I probably could have got a lot more for it. And I'm thinking, Matthew, are you looking for me?
Nope.
Okay. I saw you on the phone, just double checking. Okay. So we strike a deal, and I could have gotten a lot more for the deal, but I knew Miss Annie was in a hurry to close, and Ivan was ready to wire the money. So I struck a deal with Ivan, and we sold the note to him for $95,000. Do you see that he, the investor, the end buyer, got a 17% rate of return? And again, I could have easily sold that at a 10 or 12% rate of return and made a lot more money. But in the interest of closing quickly for Miss Annie's sake, I didn't want to be greedy. So Rick and I were very, very happy with the $14,000 that we made on the deal. Okay. We took out the cost of the appraisal and the closing costs, and we made almost $7,000 a piece. So that's a great flip too, isn't it? I mean, that's a perfect example of a flip. If you're looking for quick cash, buy low, sell high, and you make some money. But the purpose of me showing you this example was I want you to see the kind of return that Ivan really wound up getting. I mean, this is what I call a phenomenal rate of return. You see, Ivan helped the borrower to refinance. She said her husband had a heart attack like 3 years prior, and they were still paying off medical debt. Well, unbeknownst to me, Ivan's specialty was to help people to improve their credit. And so he immediately jumps into action with her and says, "Hey, let me help you improve your credit, and I can help you to get refinanced, and you'll really lower your monthly payment." Well, they were thrilled. So 3 months later, I get an email from Ivan. He says, "Hey, Donna, guess what? They just paid off. Do you have another note I could buy?" And so it turns out on Ivan's $95,000 investment in 3 months, he made, what is that, $22,000 in 3 months. That works out to be a 96% rate of return. 96%. And all he did was help him to refinance. So I hope you see that if you are holding seller carryback notes, it's a really good idea to get some mortgage brokers on your team, because a lot of times the mortgage brokers will do exactly what Ivan did and help people to refinance, help them to improve their credit so they can refinance. They'll work with them, because the thing is that when you buy a note at a discount, you're expecting to get that discount over time. You see, there's 2 profit centers when you buy a note. The first one is the interest that they're paying, and that's going to come as long as you hold the note out. You're going to get it if they pay off in a year, you get a year's worth of interest. If they pay off in 20 years, you're going to get 20 years of interest. The other profit center is the discount, when you pay less than what is owed. And when you're basing your numbers and working up your quote, you have to assume worst case scenario, it's going to go to maturity. And so you base your quote on the fact that, hey, it might take me 10, 20 years to be paid off. But if you help them to refinance, now this discount that you expected to get over many years, all of a sudden you get it in a matter of a few months. Guess what happens to your rate of return? It goes through the roof. Okay? And it's just like I said, it's a function of the time value of money. You can't help it. Your rate of return automatically goes up. And you're getting these kind of rates of return, and the entire time you never owned the property. That's what's so great about notes. You control the property without owning it. When you own the property, you own all the headaches that go with it. You have to deal with the proverbial tenants, trash, toilets, the rehabs. That's what I hate. I hate dealing with rehabs. But when you're holding the note, you don't deal with that. And yet you still get these crazy high rates of return. I mean, I challenge you, if anybody has an easier, faster, safer way to make a 96% rate of return, I want you to email me, because I don't know of it. Yes, I'm not saying you can't make a 96% rate of return, but normally it comes with risk, or it comes with a tremendous amount of time. It's just not safe, and it's not an easy, quick thing to do. But with notes, you get the best of all worlds. So if you have your own cash, this is the way that you are going to build tremendous wealth very, very quickly. And I'll tell you what I do. If I see a note that I think has a very good possibility of paying off early, those are the notes that I hold for myself. On the other hand, if I think the person is going to, pay to maturity, those are the notes that I let go and sell to somebody else. Now my investors are going to go, oh, I don't want your notes, Donna. I know you're keeping the best ones for you. Hey, I don't have enough money to buy all the notes that I'd like to buy. So trust me, just like Ivan did here, there's still plenty of really good notes with high rates of return to go around for everybody. But while you're looking, I'm just trying to help you to sort through and get a good idea on your personal game plan for when you're out finding your own deals. Do you like that? That's pretty sweet, isn't it? Okay, so the key point here that you want to make sure that you don't forget is that when your discounted mortgage pays off early, your rate of return skyrockets, okay? Now, some people, they might do private lending. I like to do private lending as well. But some people think, hey, I'm going to get this borrower on this private loan to pay off early. You know what? Your rate of return is not going to go up because that's not a discounted note. I mean, private loans are great, and I use them. You can make good money on them, but they do not compare to buying a discounted note. Buying a note at a discount is the all-time best way to make huge profits and huge rates of return. Excuse me, let me get a drink real quick here. Okay. I have one more example, and then we'll wind up because I don't want to keep you on all evening. I appreciate that you took time out of your Friday night to be on here. So I want to go over this particular example. It's one that I share every time I talk just about because it's one of my very favorites. And it's the one that I get the most requests for. People will email me and say, hey, remember you talked about Kurt's deal? Can you tell me about that? I'm thinking maybe I might be able to do that with this note that I found. So I'm going to go over it one more time. Now, first of all, you need to use a self-directed IRA. I mean, you could do this outside your self-directed IRA, but if your goal is to build a legacy, to build a retirement, then you definitely want to do these deals inside a self-directed IRA. If you don't have one set up, I recommend you go to camaplan.com. Carl Fisher is a good friend of mine. I've known him for years. He knows notes. They are extremely easy to work with. You can close deals very quickly. They're very affordable. I love them. Okay. So if you don't have a self-directed IRA set up, or if you're not happy with your current trustee, by all means, take a look at camaplan.com. And that is CAMA plan.com. Okay, so see if you remember this, because this is very, very cool. Okay, so Kurt came to my Note Buyers Academy, which, by the way, if you haven't noticed already, we've got one of those coming up the end of September. I'm going to tell you about it when I get done here. But at one of my 4-day events, I taught this. This was many years ago. And Kurt, like, this was his favorite thing about the Academy, that he learned this. And he just made up his mind that he was going to do this deal. And so a couple months after the Academy, I get a call from Kurt, and he says, Donna, I got this note under contract. Do you have a buyer? Look, this is going to work. And so he tells me that this lady was moving to Europe. So she was getting rid of all of her investments. Now, this was a brand new note. It was not seasoned. No payments had been made. There were 180 payments, and it was a $71,000 balance. And he got this under contract to buy for $46,000. I mean, that's a pretty nice discount, isn't it? Why do you think she discounted it this much? My guess is she was probably another Miss Annie. She had lots of rental properties. My guess is that she had made a boatload of money off of these properties, and now she just wanted to cash out. She wanted money and wanted to move overseas. So at any rate, he gets us under contract for $46,000. So I called up one of my institutional buyers at the time, and they said, look, this is a brand new note. There's no seasoning. We can't buy all 180 payments. Even though they put down a good down payment, can't buy all 180. They said, we'll buy 100 payments. I said, okay, how much will you give me for 100 payments? And they said, we'll give you $50,000. $50,000 for just 100 of the payments. Do you see what happened there? He has it under contract to buy all 180 for only 46. So if we sell 100 of them for 50, that's going to give him $4,000 up front. But what happens to those last 80 payments? They're going to go in his pocket to the tune of about $45,000. But here's the real kicker. They're not going in his pocket. They're going in his self-directed IRA. He did this deal in his self-directed IRA. So he's got $4,000 going into the IRA right away. And after my investor collects 100 payments, the last 80 payments then go into his IRA. Isn't that sweet? And theoretically, does his IRA have any money invested? No. However, there's this little thing. There's a law or regulation that requires that in this kind of case, when you are using your IRA funds, your IRA has to show consideration. I use $100. Shoot, $10 would probably work. But if you have $100 that you can put into an IRA to start an IRA, you can do this deal or a deal like it, okay? And you can be putting $50,000 in your IRA, and all you've made is the initial $100 contribution. Isn't that awesome? Now, it does require a special thing, and this is in the master guide. So if you got my Note Buyer's Master Guide, look it up. There's a special clause that I put in. So I have the IRA give Sam Seller $100 earnest money, okay? And I just put that clause in my note purchase agreement, and I send the direction of investment to my trustee, say, hey, take $100 out of my IRA, send it to Sam Seller, and that's earnest money for this note. Okay, and it goes towards the purchase price. Okay, so isn't that really sweet? So if you are looking to build your IRA, in all honesty, I don't know of a better way. I mean, it's so fast. You don't have to worry about making contributions. You can do it with virtually no money, just very, very little money. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Okay? So I hope you'll take advantage of that. And by the way, I mean, you can do any of my deals that I share with you, you can do all of them inside your self-directed IRA. And so if you're looking to build a retirement, whether it's this deal or another deal, by all means, you should be doing them inside your self-directed IRA. You know, I see that we're getting a lot of questions, but I was really wanting to keep this at an hour, and we're just coming up on an hour. I tell you what, let's do this, because I know we've even got some more questions and that people haven't even posed yet. If you have questions, or maybe it's not necessarily a question on what I've covered tonight, but maybe you have other questions. How about if you email me at info@thenotebuyer.com, info@thenotebuyer.com. Email me your question. And Matthew, I hope you're available next Friday night, because what I want to do is I want to do a follow-up. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
You're good with that? Okay, awesome. Okay, so we'll do another webinar next Friday night, and it'll be a Q&A. So get your questions to me, let's say by Thursday. So in case I want to put slides together or something for you, that I have time to do that. And then watch your email, and we'll plan on doing a follow-up, a Q&A next Friday night. And that way I can take my time instead of real quick rushing through. And I can organize, because some of these questions are overlapping. And that way I can do it in an organized fashion. But before you go, I want to tell you about the Note Buyers Academy. And Matthew, are we ready to do the giveaway?
We're going to, we have a couple hundred people registered. We're going to follow up and choose one randomly and send one of you guys the negotiating course. So that'll be by email.
Okay, so I don't know if...
Or why don't we do this? Why don't we announce the winner next week?
Okay, that's a great idea. So
Oh, that would be
in case you didn't hear Matthew, what we're going to do is he's going to do a random drawing, and one person will win our our negotiating is not a contact sport, our audio classes to that. And those are phenomenal. Everybody should have those. But we're going to give those away to the lucky winner. And so we'll announce the winner next week. And Matthew will do another drawing next week too. Okay. So we'll plan on doing both of them. Okay, so let me tell you about the Academy. I know lots of you have already been to one of my academies, and I want you to know that there are a ton of people. I bet you, I don't know, probably a quarter of the people maybe are repeat attendees because it is so good. People just keep coming back. And now we've kind of gotten into a groove. I hold them in, it's actually in Covington, Kentucky, which is right across the river from Cincinnati. But so we get to look at the Cincinnati skyline is what happens. It is going to be this year, September 27th through the 30th. So it'll be Thursday through Sunday. And if you want all the details on it, go to thenotebuyer.com. I'm assuming, Matthew, that you're showing that on the screen, so people know to go there. And hey, I've got testimonials from some of the attendees from last year, so you can find out what it's like. But it's me teaching, okay? So I am going to teach for 4 full days. I usually have maybe 2 guest speakers, but it's going to be a lot of information. And I'm also introducing some new techniques this year that I just starting doing. I've changed the way we're doing partials. I've got a much better technique for that. And we're going to do some like, what would you call them? Like exercises where we get into groups, and like I might give each table a note, and you can, work on a quote together and analyze it and that kind of thing. So some hands-on stuff is going to go with it. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit more involved than the previous ones, but still, just chock full of lots of good information. But it's not just education. It is networking. I mean, we get some of the top people in the country that come. And I mean, you make phenomenal friends, phenomenal contacts, people that you can, keep up with, as you progress in your note buying career. And I mean, a lot of good friends are made. It almost becomes like a family in those 4 days because you get to know everybody. And if you've never been to one of my events, I provide all of the food, and it's good food. I found out, Matthew, they have the same chef as they did last year, and he is so good. It's like being on a cruise or something. I mean, you get really nice meals. And what's really cool is we go up to the 16th floor of the Radisson. The Radisson, I think you can see it there, is the round hotel. It actually has a revolving restaurant on the top. It's very iconic. I actually went to my senior prom for dinner, and that was when it first opened up. Shouldn't have said that, but anyway, that's how old it is. That's how old I am. But anyway, it's a great hotel, and they have just refurbished it, and they've got a whole new staff, and it's really a nice place to go. So I think you'll really enjoy it. But we go up to the 16th floor, have a great view of the city, great food. So you don't have to run around, trying to get fast food and hurry up and get back into the room and all that kind of stuff. And we go from 8:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. We take a break for lunch and dinner. But I'm telling you that I really, really try to give you your money's worth. And then, in case you didn't know it, all work and no play makes Donna just a little bit fussy. Okay, so after several days of being in the seminar room, I am going to take you Saturday night on a riverboat cruise. Okay, and what we do, this is a really nice dinner cruise. They have great food there, prime rib and seafood and stuff. And so we go up the river on B&B riverboats. It's one of those old paddle boats, replica. And so we'll go up the river for an hour and a half and enjoy our dinner and come back down the river. If you check the website out, there's a video. Somebody asked me about this today. Matthew. There's a video, and I think that was David, if I'm not mistaken. And on the top floor of the riverboat, they have a live band, and he was out there dancing and getting into it and really getting his groove on. Lots of people were. So it's a lot of fun. So all around, it is a great time. You will learn a phenomenal amount about notes. And I will tell you what will happen. See, most of our students, the ones who are the most successful are those who come to the academy. And I believe the reason is when you eat, drink, and sleep notes for 4 days, even if you have never bought a note before, by the time you get done, you feel like a pro. You feel like you know what you're doing. So you leave there pumped up, full of confidence, and you're comfortable. And, hey, I can do this. And it makes all the difference in the world in your success. So I hope you're going to be able to clear your schedule and come. You can get more information on the website at thenotebuyer.com. We've got an early bird special going on. It is normally $2,497 per person, but our early bird special, you save $900. It's only $1,597. And then if you want to bring your spouse or business partner or significant other, it's only $600. And that's just to cover the cost of the food and the cruise. Plus, to really sweeten the pot and make it a no-brainer, we're including the 2017 Note Buyer Academy media set, free. That's a $997 value. And in that media set, you're going to get the videos, the manual, and the audios from last year's Academy. Now, you might be thinking, well, what do we need that for if we're going to the real thing? Well, here's why. Because I want you to be prepared when you come to the live event so you get the very most out of it. So by getting the media set first, you can listen to the CDs, you can go through the manual. I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same by any means, but at least it gives you, a very, very good start on it. So you can start formulating your questions and stuff so that when you come to the academy, you've already seen a little bit of this and you've already got a feel for things and you'll know what to watch out for. And you'll know what questions to ask. So I have found it to be invaluable. The students totally love this. We did this last year as well, and people just were thrilled that they got to see the academy before they got there. Okay, and you still want to come, even if you've got the media set. There's nothing like the live event. I mean, it is truly an experience. Okay, it's way more than just education. It's the networking, it's the friends, it's the fun, and just a great way to learn. So I hope you're able to clear your schedule and definitely check out the website, thenotebuyer.com. Listen to the testimonials. People raved about the academy. Okay, and check it out. If you have any questions, email us at info@thenotebuyer.com. Matthew will take very, very good care of you, I promise. Many of you have already made friends with him, and he's here to help, and he will make sure that you get well taken care of. So Matthew, can you think of anything else? I'm not following all of the chat box, but is there anything else that I need to cover? Or since we're doing the Q&A next week, will that all be sufficient?
No, that's good. I'll send everyone an email that registered with a reminder that they can just submit their questions by responding to the email or sending us one at the info@thenotebuyer.
Okay.
So that sounds good to me.
Okay, awesome. So in case you didn't hear Matthew, what he said was he's going to send an email to remind everybody that we will have a follow-up Q&A next Friday night and to get your questions in by next Thursday. And then tune in on Friday night and you'll hear the winner of the negotiating audio class. Okay, thanks a lot for joining me. I hope this has been inspiring to you. I hope you will dust off your master guide, and I hope you'll order some names or set up some, maybe, I didn't mention this. I did think of something else, Matthew. Another really great way, if you don't want to buy a list, get set up on LinkedIn. Do Craigslist. Go to meetups. You need to go get into your master guide. It's chapter 7 on marketing, getting started. There's all kinds of marketing ideas. Mortgage brokers are a great source. One of my new students who got the master guide, he just closed his first deal, and he called me and he said, Donna, he said, there's a whole bunch more where these came from. And all he did was, once he realized he was going to be buying notes, he sent out an email to all of his client list. And lo and behold, this woman calls up, and she had contacted him about borrowing money. That's what he does. But when she found out that he also now was buying seller finance notes, hey, she needed cash. And so we wound up buying her seller carryback note. So perfect example how mortgage brokers, title companies, real estate attorneys, there's lots of people, CPAs, financial planners, all of them can be good sources for you to refer notes to you. So check out Chapter 7, check out the website, and I will see you next Friday night. And hopefully I'll see you in September at the 2018 Note Buyers Academy. Good night, everybody.